Hi, friends. Welcome to Luminous Human School. I'm Christy Sandino, and I'm here with Lindsay Davis.
Hello, my friends.
And this is the last episode of season 2.
Yeah.
And it's been such a good season.
Yeah, it has.
And we've loved sharing more deeply about breath work. We've adored the guests that we had on, and we
Yes.
hope you have too. And as always, let us know like what you're loving and who you're resonating with.
Yeah.
For today, we thought it would be really sweet to talk about what it means to be a luminous human. I feel like that is what we're talking about all the time in different ways. And we hope that's giving you a lot of different angles. So to be luminous is to be radiating with light. So that in this context, that would be radiating with an inner light, with the truth of who you are, and to be really connected with your consciousness, your spirit, your love, and letting those aspects of self shine through and inform your outer world.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what we wanted to deepen into today.
Yeah, absolutely. As you were saying that, I was just thinking about all of the episodes that we've done, both in this season and in our first season, and how, we've really offered a lot of different like practices and toolkits essentially to tap into like that presence and, shining your light. Cause a lot of people could hear that and be like, okay, well, that sounds great. How do I do that? And through our different episodes of just you and I talking, and then, of course, our incredible guests, they've come on and shared so many incredible practices as well, which has just been so beautiful. And yeah, I love that you mentioned the guests that we had on this season because each one has really been so special. And I feel like each one of them really embodied that like luminous human in their own way because each person was so real and authentic and just like shown their light. They just came on and were like, here you go. This is me. And that's what I thought was so cool is yeah, I just don't feel like any of the people we talked to this season, I don't think any of them held back. I feel like, it was just such a flow of conversation and that light just really came through not just them but the three of us coming together and chatting. So I just felt like that was really special just in reflection of this past season. And then speaking of luminosity and the luminous human, just how each one just completely embodied that. And it's not like we told them like, "Hey, this is this is what this is, like, be that." They just were.
No, but I do think that we were drawn to them and asked them to come and share on the show because we saw that in them already.
Yes, absolutely. And I think that's, like, one of those key things that when I think about, um, yeah, being that luminous human, which I mentioned, is that authenticity. And we saw light in them because they don't hold back on who they are. They are authentic. And I think that's so beautiful is that when we really can embrace this authentic side of us rather than, you know, putting up masks and pretending and, trying to fit into these molds. And then we just are, you know, the right people just like come to you like moths to a light because they're attracted to that energy and that authenticity and what's real.
And I think a through line that I noticed in all of our guests, and I even commented on this with Noelani when she
Mm.
was on her episode, is this willingness to be vulnerable. I feel like that is such a
Yeah.
key to authenticity. Like, can we love ourselves and our journey enough and have enough compassion for ourselves to feel safe sharing all of those moments, all the ups and downs, and really the so-called downs are what can spur us to reaching for our greatest gifts.
Mm.
So I feel like in maybe um like maybe I'll say Western society as the way of describing what I want to say, there's this idea of strength and always putting your best qualities forward all the time. But when we can share the wholeness of ourselves and not feel like sharing what might be labeled as a failure or um, something that just didn't go the way we wanted it to go,
Yeah.
that that people find um their own strength through that to see like, oh, I'm not alone. This person that I admire has also been through this or can even understand pain of loss even if it's not the same. That it's a deep connector.
Yeah.
Being vulnerable is just a deep connector
Mm.
and allows us to um embrace like ourselves and each other in all aspects of the journey. And
Mhm.
then I think that's what also like draws people to you when you can be so loving of your own ups and downs
Mhm.
that it creates a luminosity within.
Mm. I like the way you said that. Yeah. Yeah, I was thinking about, yeah, that the vulnerability and how it can be so challenging for us to be vulnerable because I think so many of us just have this fear of being judged or outcasted or, feeling alone, that it's like I'm not part of anything, like I'm the weirdo, like quote unquote. But it's just like when we are vulnerable and it shows we're relatable, because so
Yeah.
many of us are like, I'm not showing that, I'm not showing that, I'm not showing that. But if we, can open up, we're like, oh yeah, me too, oh that's interesting, me too, like I understand how you feel. I feel that too. And it's like what you were saying, that connector is that, like, so many of us think like we have these almost like shame around these things, and then we become disconnected because we think we're the only one, and then we realize that's not true. And we actually become more connected through those things.
Yes. And I think that when I feel into embracing my journey or things that haven't gone the way I hoped they would, the more I can infuse like love and compassion and acceptance into those parts of myself, I feel like that opens up such a freedom
Hmm.
because now I'm sending the message to myself, to my own heart, like, I'm going to love you no matter what.
Yeah.
And so I can go out again and try other things and be adventurous, knowing that it's okay if it doesn't work because it's really is, it's like such a cliche, but it like really is about the journey.
Yeah.
and like
Yeah.
being free to explore in the journey and just try a lot of different things.
Yeah.
And if you're always editing yourself or worried about what people are going to think,
Right.
like you have no freedom. You're like, you're a prisoner to not even other people's thoughts, but your imagining of other people's thoughts
Ooh,
because
right.
you can't know.
No. Right? Like the imagining of other people's thoughts. I love that where it's like, yeah, we don't really know. We're like, oh, this person's gonna think this. And then we just, yeah, we create our own like prison in that way. And I like what you were saying is like going out and like trying new things and taking time really to like discover yourself, right? I think that's like part of this luminous human path and journey is like taking the steps to like understand yourself because how are you vulnerable about things if you don't really understand who you are? Maybe people have not ever had a true opportunity to really explore in that way. Maybe they've always been like, okay, I have to do things by the book. I have to do things this way. This is what society wants. This is what my parents want. This is what I'm supposed to do. And they were just like, nope, that's what I have to do. And then at some point they might be like, you know what? I always wanted to try, painting. I always wanted to try dance. I always wanted to try rock climbing. I don't, it could be anything, writing, literally anything. Um, and how cool is it to kind of break free of that and even if it's like a small thing to try first to just be like I've kind of had an interest in this, like maybe I'll dabble in that and see like how that feels for me and just kind of playing around with your own self expression of really who you are and having that opportunity to do so. And there's lots of different ways you could do that, of course. And it is could just be like, I have this interest in this thing, so I'm going to go like take a class. Or, maybe I just want to start writing. So I just start like free writing, or I have this play that I want to create, or, I want to dance. And and maybe it is just like getting quiet for a bit and sitting in meditation and being like, what feels good? Like what would I like to try? So this like pathway of self-discovery, it just like opens us up to our own authenticity.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, and I think that there's this idea that if we want to learn something new, that we have to be good at it, or that like I want to do this to get good at it.
Mm.
And I feel like if we can get rid of that idea and allow ourselves to be a beginner, to be terrible at something, and maybe just stay terrible about something. Like, what if you want to draw, but you know, you're going to be terrible at it forever? Like, you won't, because if you practice drawing like 5 minutes a day for the rest of your life, like you're going to get better. But just imagine, like, imagine for a second that you're never going to get better. It's just like not going to be pretty, but it's going to be a method of self expression where you get to put colors, ink, pencil on paper. You could scribble or make a mess, and it's just a vehicle for like moving energy through and playing just with
Mhm.
freedom, no matter
Yeah.
like a 2-year-old forever, just always, hands in the paint, sparkles, let me throw some, like a piece of bread on there, like what?
I love it.
Like anything, like just for the sake of play.
Mm.
Like, what,
Yeah.
how much freedom would flow through you? How much light would open in you just by allowing yourself total openness of expression through whatever medium you choose?
I love that. It's just for the sake of play. What you're saying, it's like I feel like I wish I would have heard this at a younger age in a sense, because when you're talking about drawing, as a kid, I always wanted to be able to draw, and I didn't have like this natural ability. Like some people just have kind of a natural ability, and I thought I have to have that natural ability in order to be good at this. But I would still get these like little books at the craft store that would like teach you like step by step, line by line, how to draw like a person, like a little cartoon character or something. And it's like I never really stuck with it, but had I had that discipline or that thought, that's like, Lindsay, you just have to practice. Like you just have to put, some time in. And like it's okay that it doesn't come like completely naturally to you right now, but you can get better. So I'm like, I wish, wish I would have had that like thought process coming through when I was younger and,
Right. But
doing
even
that.
that, like, you can still hear yourself like holding on to the idea of like discipline and getting better. Like,
Yeah.
like what if little Lindsay just got to play and play and play,
Yeah.
play and play and play and
Right.
never had a thought about it needing discipline or needing to get better.
Yeah, and I guess I think like, when little kids before they even have these kinds of thoughts and they're just scribbling all over the page and they're like
Yeah.
presenting it so proudly to their
Yeah.
parent and they're like did that, and they're not like this sucks. They're like look what I did. It's like
Yes. Like
having
that's the
that.
energy I would love to invoke for myself. I could feel that as we're talking about this, I'm like, oh, there's so many
I
places in my life where, like what freedom would open up if I could let go of the idea that discipline had to come with it or getting better had to come with it. And then it could just
Yeah,
be like play. I'm just playing. Like
I
I've wanted to learn to speak another language forever, but then I always, get nitpicky about like pronunciation and, making, I want to do it right.
know. Yeah.
Uh, which, yes, of course, like eventually to communicate with other people in another country, there's an aspect of having to do it right, but also I can't, I know, 50, maybe 100 words in Spanish because I took Spanish in college. And just having a handful of words, how much I've been able to connect with people in Spanish speaking countries. I don't need to know how to conjugate past and future
Yeah.
to connect,
Right.
So, and like, what if it would just be fun? Like, just
Right.
so I'm like, even as we're having this conversation, I'm just opening to that idea of how
Same.
much more light could flow through me in some of the inspirations I've had of things I've wanted to do, but then I stop doing it because it stops being play and starts being, you have like that critical teacher in my head that
Yeah.
sucks all the joy out of the process.
Right? Yeah, I know. As you were talking about it too, it's like, what is it like to just infuse more play into the things we're doing? And I was even thinking about, uh, you know, business ideas that I have, like things I'm wanting to create in that sense, and how sometimes it can feel very heavy. Like, oh, I have to figure out all this stuff. I have to figure out all these things, and how do I start first, and how do I do this? And I can see the part of me that can find the play in it and be like, "Ooh, let's figure it out. Like that sounds fun. How do I do that?" And then a part of me that's like, "All right, I got to figure this thing out now. It's probably going to be stressful and I'm not going to know what I'm doing." And but like both exist and I can choose what mindset I prefer to be in those moments. And of course there might be moments that I'll be like, "This is a little stressful right now," but maybe that's a moment that I check back in with that mindset, or maybe I just need to take a break, or, because I've also found in different things I'm doing, when I kind of hit this place where I feel a little stuck, if I step back and I like sleep on it, usually I wake up and I'm like, ah, I have a new idea. Like I have a solution for it or something. But I just love this idea of like, how can we infuse more play into these things to kind of to bring the light to it, to
Yeah.
just have more fun with it. And then what gets created out of that mindset of play versus the mindset of like, all right, i gotta I gotta do this,
Yes.
and play can still have a sense of like structure that you want to follow to complete something, but bringing the mindset of this can be really fun
Yes.
is very different than, ugh, gotta do
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. And it, could take a little practice, but what a great thing to
Yeah.
practice.
Yeah, I need to practice. I'm like, this is my practice now for a little bit.
Right. And then the other thing that I'm thinking about is the other piece that I was mentioning, where I can be hard on myself or I can be critical.
Yeah.
And so, since we're speaking of, what it means to be a luminous human and how to like invoke that luminous light within in our lives, I would say when you can catch it, because it's not always easy when we're in it, but when you can catch that inner critic and give it love, as
Mm.
opposed to saying, oh, I'm doing it again, I'm criticizing myself, I shouldn't be criticizing myself. Stop it.
Stop doing that.
um that if you can say, oh yeah, I hear that there's that part of me that like wants to do a really good job. Thank you
Mm.
for, that part of me that wants to do everything right, be diligent. Like I see that desire for excellence.
Mm.
And so I love you, but can we also like tone it down? Can we bring some gentleness to that, you know, desire to do things well?
Mhm.
I think I don't know if I'm explaining it great, but bringing a quality of compassion to all aspects of self.
Yeah, I think you explained it really well. I mean, I think that it's great that we have that part of us that has an aspect of criticism. I don't even want to call it that, but like the parts of us that are like wanting to do it right, wanting to be perfect, and critiquing ourselves
Hmm.
essentially, because that is the part of us that's like driving us to, to greatness, to want to be our best because we want to present something that is like we're proud of, like this is what I have, like it's pretty cool, huh, so it's like, yeah, I think that um
Yeah.
we can really value that part, just like what you're saying, but sometimes it can get a little out of control and um stop us in our tracks, like paralyze the process and be like, well, it's not good enough, better, why are you even doing it, like when it gets to that point where it's like it takes the joy out of it. It takes the fun out of it. It's like over overdone with the criticism to the point that it's like, why am I even doing this? Like it's no good. That's not helpful.
Um,
But I love, infusing the love into the things that we're doing, and I think that's just another piece of this luminous human aspect. To be luminous is to be loving, to care for yourself, to care for others, to bring that light, not just like to everybody else, but like to shine it on yourself too when you need it in those moments, because there's
yeah.
always these parts of us that could use a little extra attention and love and light to fill us up.
Yeah. I think that's really the key is letting the light shine on all the aspects of ourselves. So we're not just holding parts in darkness of like, oh, this bad part of myself that I don't want other people to see and I don't even really want to look at. Now we scoop that part in too and say, yes, this is part of me. And I'm going to love you too. I'm going to love all aspects of myself.
Mhm.
And, you know, I think that if you see all those aspects of yourself almost like people, like what do
Mhm.
people want? They want to be heard. They want to, be seen. So if you take like say the inner critic and you're always saying no, bad, go away, I'm not listening, like you're too mean, you know, uh, that person is going to try and speak louder. No, you didn't hear what I said. You're not listening to me. No, listen. But if
Yeah.
you take the inner critic and you say, yes, thank you, I hear you. I understand. I get your point. and scoop that aspect in, then it could be more integrated. So like say you're in a circle of people and those are all the aspects of self, all the aspects get to be heard.
Yeah.
So then you're balancing like the critic with the compassion,
Mhm.
the critic and the compassion with the play,
Yeah.
and all those parts get to be there. I think it would be probably unrealistic to say like I'm gonna immerse myself in play and let go of the inner critic. Bye, inner critic. I'll never hear from you again. Whew, why did I even entertain that? Well, the inner critic is probably gonna pop its head in here and there.
At some point. Can't really escape it forever.
Yeah, so I kind of like that visualization of the aspects of self, like in a circle, like when we lead a breathwork circle, like everyone gets to be there.
Yeah, could you imagine, like, going into a breath work and you're guiding it and you're like, "All right, everybody breathe, except for you in the back, the corner there. No, not you. Like, you don't get to be here," you know? It's like, "What?"
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and as you were, like, speaking about that, I was just thinking how, it's a practice for sure of, it's we speak about this and it sounds simple, but it's not always easy. It takes presence, to recognize those moments and to recognize those pieces of ourselves. And then going, oh, okay, oh, I see that now. Okay. Now what do I do with it? I've always pushed that away. What am I supposed to do? And then it's like, "All right, let me try this thing she talked about bringing that in and loving it. Okay, how does that feel?" And it's all a practice, and it does require the presence, and it does require the love and the compassion. And it's something I think, like, I'm always working on. I've been practicing this stuff for many years, but I still work on it all the time.
Yeah. Yeah. There's no final end point where you're like, got it.
Did
Done.
it.
Never
I'm
have to worry
so
about.
luminous.
Yeah, but when you learn these practices, it's tools in the tool belt. So you can go back to them. Lindsay and I have said to each other for years, like, wouldn't it be great if like you could read like one book on spirituality or practices and then they just go in and it's done. Like you But we've actually recorded episodes and then 2 months later when we're releasing it, listened back and thought, "Oh my gosh, I love that practice. I actually had forgotten about that, and what a great reminder for something that I'm experiencing in my life right now."
Oh my gosh, right? So many times I've re-listened and been like, I needed that episode. Oh my gosh. Like, and I feel like we record these, and then as soon as we record them, it's almost like, what did we talk about? And then I go back and I listen and I'm like, oh, I really needed to hear that. Thanks, me and Christy. And it's, it's helpful to like rehear it. It's like, I know I have this knowledge in me. I know I have the practices, but then, there's a lot of different things and it's different situations. I'm going to like tap into different tools that I need, or maybe I need a reminder of that tool that I have that I'm like, oh yeah, I do know
Yeah,
that.
so, you know, when you're listening to this episode, you can just pick one thing that sounds good and play with that, and
Yeah.
then go back and pick out another one to try later. You you would it wouldn't be fun to try and take every practice we're talking about and implementing them all at once every day. Like, now I'm going to do this forever. So
It'd be a lot.
we're offering, you know, like a buffet of things you can choose from, and just pick the one that looks really good right now, and dive in, like enjoy it thoroughly and see, what it smells like and what it tastes like and how it impacts your body and your being. And
Mhm.
then once you've played with that, you can try another one. So it doesn't have to feel overwhelming or like you need to be a different person. You get to just be, this is all about being the most you could possibly be. Like,
Yeah.
really, yeah, be letting your true self shine through. And that
Mhm.
takes a lot of love and compassion and
Mhm.
patience and practice.
Yeah. And also recognizing that, we're always shifting and changing, right? So things that may have resonated with us at one point or we thought, were kind of like who we are, like 10 years later, you're not going to be the same person. Like your values may have shifted um to some extent. I'm sure there's like core values that we have and like morals that we live by and that sort of thing, and those likely, some of those ones might not like shift so much, but different interests or the way we like manage ourselves or situations and our triggers and our reactions, or um just the way we think about things, it's we're ever evolving, which is so beautiful. So it's nice to kind of, maybe there was a practice you had at one point and you got away from it, and then you're like, I'm gonna try that again, see how that one feels. And we're always on this like path of self discovery, right? Or we can be. Maybe not everybody is, and that's okay too. That's their path, right? But we can choose to be on it if it resonates with us. And I think that's what's so cool about the human experience, is that we have this opportunity to really explore in this way, and to sit in meditation or to do a breath work and explore on deeper levels. And even through connections and relationships and communities, we explore on even new levels. And it's just sort of never ending, which is so incredible to have this human experience and
Yes.
see like what's next.
Yeah. Yeah, like what's your pleasure? Like what sparks your interest? What pulls you towards it? And exploring that. Like, if you're really into dirt bike riding, like, you don't need to s- worry that you should be spending time painting to discover what's inside you. Go towards the call in your heart. Like, go be, on the dirt bike, going fast, flying through the air, getting covered in mud. Like, be in your pleasure. There's no right way to be in the human experience.
Right, that made me think too. Is like, I think that many people could look at us, like what we would be like, oh, this is a spiritual person or a spiritual place. But like, what does that even mean? I think that there's a picture that society wants to paint of, oh, that's what it looks like and that's what it means. But no, it's whatever you want it to be and whatever you want it to mean. Like you're saying with riding the dirt bike, like that could be a spiritual experience. Like the kind of like excitement and high someone could get from doing that, like could connect them to God. Like in like a beautiful way where they're like, "Ah, it was the most exhilarating thing. I felt the most free I have ever felt in my entire life." You know, and it's like, how does it make you
Yeah.
feel? There is no one definition to be a a spiritual person or to have a
Right.
spiritual experience.
Right. You don't have to wear robes or beads or braid your hair or whatever, those like kind of stereotype images are of, someone with their hands in prayer pose. Like,
Mhm.
you know, I think it's what's in you. Like, we each
Mm.
are here in a body for a reason. Like,
Yeah.
it's not a mistake that we need to transcend these horrible, heavy bodies. No, like, they're here for us to experience something extremely unique and special. So let's find out, like, the way our bodies want to move and what we're drawn towards. And like we've talked about in other episodes, our bodies give us so much information about what's a yes and what's a no. So
Yeah.
the more we connect and listen and feel, the more we will be in alignment with our truth and whatever expression we came here to, light up the world with.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. Yeah. Just tapping into that expression that we want to light up the world with. Yeah, that's so beautiful. And I think, it just makes me think of gratitude, that, there's a lot of different ways we can, kind of look around us and compare ourselves and not feel good enough and, just be like, oh, what am I doing? I'm not this and I'm not that. But like, what are you? And like, how, can we focus on all the wonderful things about our life and that each experience, each human has their own unique experience to like have in this world. And like some people might look at a situation and be like, oh, like that person doesn't have it good and that person has it great. And like, regardless of that, how can we tap into the gratitude of where we are and what we do have and like put that as the focus? And I get that some situations might be harder to do that in others or easier to do that in others because of what we've been told should be correct or something or better, but
Or even due to like what we're currently experiencing in the moment. Like there's
yeah,
times
yeah.
there's things
Circumstances.
happening outside of us beyond our control,
Mhm.
and we have to navigate those.
Right, and
And I guarantee there's always one thing that at least that you can find to be grateful for.
right, and I think we've talked about that before. It's like, yeah, there are circumstances, like, not so great, right? It can be harder to find that gratitude, but I think we've even broken it down as like, I am grateful for this breath that I'm taking right now, or,
Mhm.
I'm grateful for the sky and the colors that I see in the sky. It's like, we can really break it down and just begin to cultivate that practice of gratitude, which, and we talk about, what you focus on grows and manifestation practices and that sort of thing. And it's like, what do we want to put our focus on? Do we want to focus on our limitations, or do we want to, like, okay, we can see limitations, we can recognize that those are there, but like, can we also focus on what we're grateful for and what we can do? And so it's like, again, it becomes this the mindset of it all.
Yeah, we can hold both. We can see things that we would like to be different and also find things to be grateful for at the same time.
Hmm.
We don't have to ignore difficult situations to find gratitude. We can hold a lot. So we're just
Right.
inviting you to see if there's spaces that you
Mm.
can create pockets of gratitude no matter what you're going through.
Mm-hmm. I
And
think
it'll
that's
grow.
yes, because that's its own practice. And I think that's an important distinction just to say it's like we can hold both, you know. We can kind of feel like a certain way about something, but then we can also find the gratitude and do our best to, bring some light into whatever situation we might be in.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The skills of the luminous human.
Yeah.
Right, the practice.
Hmm.
We're here, we're practicing, we're trying, we're
Yeah.
playing in the light. Yeah, so we just wanted to chat a little bit about this, idea of being luminous and what that means, what it can mean. And of course it's up to your own interpretation, but we felt like it would be fun to talk about it because it is, the title of our podcast, Luminous Human School. And I didn't really know like what direction we would go with, going with this, but I think it's been really interesting just to see what wanted to like come out as we started talking about the light and the luminosity and tapping into that. So um, I do also just want to say thank you all so much for being with us on this journey through season two. It's been a really special season, and I just feel so grateful for every like episode we have, and especially every person that we got to talk to. I feel like I learned a lot and was so inspired and just kind of blown away by our guests this season. So, yeah, like immense gratitude for our listeners and for our guests and for you, Christy, of course.
For you too.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Yeah. But yeah, so we hope you enjoyed this episode. Of course, you can reach out to us anytime on Instagram at Luminous Human School. And we love you so much.
We love you so much.